The moment the curtain rose, Simon Cowell leaned forward, already preparing to stop what he thought would be a chaotic audition, but within seconds his expression changed completely, because standing silently on the America's Got Talent stage were 48 Filipino children from Cebu, barefoot, trembling, eyes closed, carrying a secret so powerful that it would freeze him, silence the entire theater, and leave millions watching at home unable to breathe. If you believe music can change destiny, press subscribe now, because this story proves miracles still happen. The stage lights of America's Got Talent glowed brighter than ever that night, but behind the curtain, 48 children stood shoulder to shoulder, their small hands tightly clasped together, some whispering prayers in Cebuano, some biting their lips to stop the shaking. They were not celebrities, not trained stars, and not backed by powerful agencies. They were simply kids from Cebu, Philippines, many from fishing villages, mountain barangays, and crowded streets where dreams were often silenced by poverty. Their ages ranged from 7 to 16, and not one of them had ever imagined standing on the biggest stage in America. What connected them was not fame or money, but a shared story of loss, struggle, and a dream born after a disaster that almost destroyed their community. 2 years earlier, a powerful typhoon had torn through their province, ripping roofs from homes, flooding schools, and taking away lives. In the days that followed, relief was slow, and hope was thinner than ever. One evening, inside a damaged community hall with no electricity, a volunteer music teacher named Maria gathered the children to calm their fear. She asked them to sing, not to perform, but to survive the night. Their voices echoed in the dark, trembling at first, then growing stronger. Neighbors gathered, some crying, some holding candles. In that moment, music became their shelter. From that night on, they met every week, not knowing that those broken harmonies would someday reach the world. When America's Got Talent announced open auditions for international acts, Maria hesitated. 48 kids traveling overseas sounded impossible. Passports, visas, money, fear, all stood in the way. But the children insisted. They sold snacks, performed in local fiestas, sang in churches, and shared one pair of shoes between rehearsals. A small video of their practice went viral locally, and donations slowly came in. Against all odds, they arrived in America, wide-eyed, jet-lagged, and overwhelmed by the size of everything. Still, they promised each other one thing. No matter what happened on that stage, they would sing with the same heart they used in the dark after the storm. Back in the theater, the judges watched as the curtain opened. Simon Cowell frowned slightly, seeing the large group. He leaned toward his microphone, clearly skeptical. 48 kids usually meant chaos, weak sound, and poor coordination. "How long is this going to take?" he asked, his tone sharp but honest. The audience murmured nervously. Maria stepped forward, her voice shaking as she explained where they came from and why they were there. Simon nodded politely but raised his hand. "Okay, let's hear it," he said, clearly ready to stop them if it went wrong. The children stood perfectly still. No music started. No movement. 10 seconds passed. 20. The audience began shifting in their seats. Then, the youngest girl in the front row, barely 7 years old, opened her mouth and sang one soft note. Just one. Clear. Fragile. Pure. It floated through the theater like a whisper. Then another child joined. Then another. Slowly, layer by layer, the sound grew, not louder, but deeper. A harmony so gentle yet so precise, that the murmurs stopped instantly. By the time all 48 voices joined, the theater was completely silent. No coughing, no shuffling, even the judges froze. The song was not in English at first. It was a Cebuano prayer, one sung during storms, asking for protection and strength. The melody rose and fell like ocean waves. Cameras zoomed in on the judges. Heidi Klum covered her mouth. Sofia Vergara's eyes filled with tears. Howie Mandel leaned back, stunned. Simon Cowell, known for his brutal honesty, did not move. His jaw tightened. His eyes locked onto the children. For the first time that night, he did not reach for the buzzer. Midway through the song, something unexpected happened. One boy in the back row stepped forward, his voice breaking slightly as he sang a solo line in English. He sang about a house that fell, a mother who prayed, and a child who promised never to stop singing. The audience gasped. This was no longer just a performance. It was a confession. As the choir joined him again, the song shifted into English entirely, blending their native melody with words everyone could understand. Hope after ruin, light after darkness, voices rising when everything else fell silent. Simon Cowell swallowed hard. He leaned forward, hands clasped, eyes glassy. This was not supposed to happen. He had seen thousands of auditions, heard every sob story, every emotional trick. But this was different. There was no forcing emotion. No dramatic pauses. Just raw truth carried by children who had lived it. The theater felt smaller, like everyone was inside that broken community hall back in Cebu, listening by candlelight. As the final note approached, the children did something no one expected. One by one, they stopped singing, until only the youngest girl's voice remained, the same one who started it all. She held the last note, soft but steady, then closed her eyes and let it fade. Silence followed. Not the awkward kind. The heavy, sacred kind. For nearly 5 full seconds, no one moved. Then the audience erupted. A standing ovation exploded through the theater. People screamed, cried, clapped until their hands hurt. The judges stood as well, but Simon Cowell stayed seated for a moment longer. He wiped his eyes quickly, hoping the camera did not catch it. Then he stood up, slow and deliberate, and clapped. The crowd roared louder. When the noise finally settled, Simon spoke. "I don't know what to say," he admitted. "That almost never happens." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I was ready to stop this. I thought it would be too much. But what you just did was extraordinary. This is why this show exists." Heidi stepped forward, her voice shaking as she praised their unity and discipline. Sophia said she felt like she had traveled to their village without leaving her seat. Howie called it one of the most powerful choir auditions in the history of the show. But the biggest twist was yet to come. Simon raised his hand again. "I have a question," he said, looking directly at Maria. "What happens if you don't make it through?" Maria smiled gently. "We go home," she said. "And we keep singing." That answer hit harder than any note. Simon nodded slowly, walked to the desk, and did something that shocked everyone. He did not reach for the golden buzzer immediately. Instead, he turned to the children. "Can you sing one more thing?" he asked, his voice softer than anyone had ever heard it. Without music, without hesitation, they began a simple lullaby, one sung by parents in Cebu when there is no electricity and the rain is too loud. Their voices blended perfectly again, filling the space not with power, but with peace. Halfway through, Simon pressed the golden buzzer. Gold confetti rained down as the theater erupted once more. The children screamed, cried, hugged each other, some collapsing to the floor in disbelief. Maria covered her face, overwhelmed. Simon stood there, clapping through tears, shaking his head as if still processing what he had done. "In all my years," he said, "I've never seen something so pure deserve this moment more." The clip spread across the world within hours. Millions watched. Celebrities shared it. Donations poured in for music programs in Cebu. The children returned home as heroes, but more importantly, as proof that even the quietest voices can shake the world. Schools invited them to perform. Relief organizations partnered with their community. And every time they sang, they remembered the night when 48 kids stood silently on a foreign stage and taught the world how to listen. As you finish watching this story, remember that greatness does not always come from loud beginnings. Sometimes it starts in silence, after a storm, in a dark room, with children who refuse to give up.